You're like, what? Is it full of dishes? Does it need to be run? Is it running right now? How about the counters? Are you getting ready for Easter dinner back at home? And is there stuff everywhere that needs to get picked up? Guys, how's your lawn? Does it need to be mowed? Does it need, perhaps some of you with animals, does it need some of those deposits left on the lawn? Do those need to be picked up? Fertilizer. How about your laundry room? Is it like mine? Whenever we have guests come over, and I love having guests come over, but whatever we do, we grab all the laundry, we pick it up from everywhere, and it's all over the house, and we're like, I have no idea why somebody's pants would be in the living room, but they are. And we pick them up, and we get all the laundry, we take them into the laundry room, and we throw it all in the laundry room, and we just kick it into the laundry room, and then we try to get the door shut. No, don't go in there. How's your laundry room? It's easy for us to see Jesus on days like this, in places like this, with the singing and with the crowds, and so many of you in new clothes, so many ties among us. I learned quickly here as pastor that we didn't wear suits and ties all that often. But today, on Easter Sunday, we dress up just a little bit better, don't we? Jeff, I'm waiting for you. You don't always have a tie on, but it's Easter, right? And we dress up for Easter. We do a little bit of extra things because we're meeting Jesus here in this place. You remember the joke that the kids get a bath on Saturdays, whether they like it or not? We do that because on Sundays we see Jesus. We want to look our best. We want to have everything in order. We want to be clean. We want to be fresh. We want to be ready. It's easy to see God here in this place on days like this. You and your pressed pants and shiny shoes that you have on. We sound pretty good in our singing today. You guys picked up that holiday, holiday, holiday thing pretty quick. It's easy for us to sing on Easter Sunday. There's flowers and there's crowds, and on days like this, our faith is strong. We confess and we shout aloud, Christ is risen, He is risen indeed. But Mondays come, don't they? Mondays come for every one of us. And our faith doesn't stay quite as strong as Easter Sunday. There's Sundays here that the singing, it isn't so good. That's no fault of your own, Jeff, but it's mine, the picking of the songs. There's Sundays where we'd rather not come to church, let alone get gussied up for church. When our faith isn't quite so strong. Mondays come. And on those Mondays, we need to hear and we need to remember the promises of Easter and the promises that Jesus makes to His disciples. Let me remind you of just a few of the promises that Jesus makes to His disciples in the last week of His life. Jesus tells His disciples that they'll go and that they'll find a colt for the triumphal entry into Jerusalem. The disciples think, well, that's got to be weird. But they do. Jesus promised that they will find a colt, and they do. Jesus curses a fig tree. It's a weird account. Jesus curses a fig tree. He says that it'll wither and die. And it does. Jesus promises the destruction of the temple. And after Jesus' death, and a few years after, the temple is destroyed. Jesus promises to the disciples that they will find a man carrying a water jar who will show them the upper room, the place where they will have their Last Supper, their Passover meal together. And the disciples go and they find this man carrying a water jar, just as Jesus says that they would. Jesus promises, it says, one of you, speaking to His disciples, one of you will betray me. And He does. Jesus, speaking to all of his disciples, says, you will all become deserters. They do. Jesus, speaking to Peter, says, before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. He does. Jesus, earlier in the Gospel of Mark, promises to his disciples, after I have been raised, I will go ahead of you to Galilee. Jesus is here, and it's easy for us to see Jesus here in this place, and in our worship, and in our gathering, and in our singing, and in our praise. But Jesus promises to his disciples that he will go ahead of them after he is raised to Galilee. Jesus promises at Easter that he will go ahead of us to our Galilee. Why Galilee? Galilee is the place of the disciples' home. Jesus promises at Easter that he will go ahead of them after he is raised to their homes. How's your dishwasher? How's your lawn? How's the laundry room looking? Jesus goes on ahead of you today to your homes. Jesus goes on ahead of you this very moment into our Monday. You've heard this story of, it's a camp skit, it's entitled Jesus is Coming to Dinner. The story goes something like this, so the skit goes something like this. There's 2 actors, and I'm going to call them Margaret and Joe. I don't know why, but it's a skit, so I'll make it up as I go here. But Margaret and Joe are just enjoying their Saturday. They're enjoying their life. And the phone rings, and Margaret picks up, and she's like really startled. And she says, "Really? Who is this?" And she gets off the phone, and she looks over at her husband Joe, and she says, "Jesus just called. Jesus wants to come to our place for dinner." So Margaret and Joe, they get all excited. They get super concerned about their dishwasher and their laundry room and their lawn. And they go crazy, picking up the house, getting ready for Jesus, because Jesus, after all, is coming to dinner. Joe is out on the lawn, riding around the tractor, making those nice, pretty straight lines that we like to do. And somebody drives by and says, "Hey, I lost my dog. Would you help me just a second? I need some help finding my dog. I think that my dog is somewhere around here, but she ran away." And Joe says, "Are you kidding me? I have no time for you. Jesus is coming to my house for dinner, and I got to do everything I can to get ready for Jesus." A couple minutes later, the phone rings, and Margaret is at home. She's baking pizza, because Jesus likes pizza, doesn't he? I don't know. Like I said, it's a skit, so I'll make it up as you go. But she's getting ready for Jesus. She's got the kitchen just about cleaned up. She's getting ready for Jesus. And the phone rings, and her good friend says, "I need somebody to talk to. I'm really having a problem as a parent. I'm just struggling as a parent with my kids. And I just need somebody to listen to. I just need somebody to talk to. I just need somebody to listen to me, and I need somebody to talk to." And Margaret says, "Are you kidding me? I mean, I love you. You're my friend. But right now, I have no time. I have no time. Jesus is coming to dinner after all." Phone rings again a couple minutes later, and again there's a request, and again there's the denial. It says, I just do not have time for your problem right now. Jesus is coming to my house for dinner. And then the phone rings again. Phone rings again, and it's Jesus on the phone. And Margaret says, "We're so excited. We're ready for you to come. The pizza's just coming out of the oven, and it's smelling so good. We're excited for you to be here." And Jesus says, "I've already been there 3 times. I needed some help finding my dog, and you didn't have any time for me. I needed somebody just to talk to, just to listen to, and you had no time for me. I called again, and I needed some help, and you said that you didn't have any time for me." You see, it's easy for us to find Jesus in these big times, these big moments of our lives, these Easter Sundays. But the promise of Easter, the promise of the Gospel of Mark, is that Jesus goes on ahead of us into our homes, to our Galilees, where everything isn't quite so perfect, where it's hard for us to see Jesus. But Jesus is going to our homes today. And Jesus will be with us in our Mondays. Jesus is with us now as we celebrate and as we enjoy and as we rejoice in Easter. But Mondays come. How hard is it for us to find Jesus during those moments? We look for Jesus in lots of different places. I encourage you again, if you haven't yet, to come and be a part of the food pantry here, where we see the face of Christ in those people who come, who are in need of food on a regular basis, right here in Norwalk. We're able to provide food for them, and we see Christ in them, and they see Christ in us. That's a holy exchange on those food pantry Wednesdays. If you haven't already, I'd encourage you, and I'd love you to come and be a part of Connection Cafe, a time where we serve a hot meal to people who are down on their luck, who are in need, who have no food in their cupboards. Come and be a part of Connection Cafe. That's a holy exchange when that happens. We look for Jesus in lots of different ways. Here's one place that I would never have expected it, but at the after-school program, so many kids come who are just needing somebody to sit with them. Not figure out their math, because I have no idea how you guys do that, the math problems that you do. This new math, right? But they just need somebody to sit with them and say, let's stay on task here, but I'm with you. Okay? It's a holy exchange when that happens. A couple of weeks, we as a congregation go out and we help our neighbors, doing some yard work and doing some cleaning and doing some help for those who can't, but that's a holy exchange when that happens, and Jesus is there. It's easy for us to find Jesus on these big days, on these Easter Sundays, when Christ is among us, and when we have to set up chairs at the back before service starts, because there's so many of you who want to come and see Jesus. The promise of Easter this day is that Jesus goes on ahead of us into our homes. When we look for Jesus in those unexpected places, those times of service, those times where others are in need. I love the way that the Gospel of Mark ends. It ends in the middle of a sentence. The women are told by the young man dressed in white to go and to tell the disciples. And the women, they tell no one, because they're gripped with fear or terror and amazement. What that does for us as we read that gospel is we recognize that the women didn't say where Jesus was. That leaves it up to us, the reader, the hearer today. That leaves it up to us to proclaim that Christ is here in this place, but that Christ is also in our homes, and Christ is also in our work, and Christ is also in our school. Christ is also in our play and on the soccer field and wherever we might be tomorrow. God goes with us into our Galilees, into our homes. We proclaim and we announce this day that Christ is here. We're strengthened in our faith. And when those Mondays come, we recognize that Christ is there too. How's your dishwasher? How's your lawn? How's your laundry room? Christ might be there too.